Hi everyone, my name is Rob Warren with the IBM Cloud team. In this video, we'll talk about VMware Shared on IBM Cloud and how to create networks and virtual machines. Let's start by creating a network in the on-demand virtual data center. vCloud Director Networks are virtual overlay networks supporting bring your own IPs backed by NSX. Networks have the ability to route to the public internet in the IBM private network via the Edge Service Gateway and network address translation. We'll look at that as well. We'll start by opening the on-demand virtual data center instance. We then navigate to the Networks tab on the far left. We don't have any networks at this time. Let's create our first network. We'll need a routed network to be able to allow network connectivity outside of the virtual data center, including accessing the public and private networks. We'll define this network with addresses in the 192.168 range. Next, select the edge. This is the edge that was included with the virtual data center, which allows the network to route externally. From the interface type list, select Distributed, then click Next. In this example, we'll use static IP addresses for the subnet. For DNS, we'll use our two favorites, Quad9 and Cloudflare. Let's review the configuration and then create the network. The network is being created now and then is quickly ready. Next, let's enable inbound and outbound traffic to that network. To enable virtual machines to reach the internet, you must configure a SNAT, or a Source Network Address Translation rule, and firewall policy to allow virtual machine traffic outbound. To allow inbound traffic, you must configure a DNAT, or Destination Network Address Translation rule, and firewall policy. First, let's create our firewall rule. We'll give the rule a name, and then we'll set the network we just created as the source. We'll keep the defaults for the other settings. Next, let's capture some settings. We'll need these settings in subsequent steps. With the tenant external addresses, we can route to the external network, and with the service network, we can route to the IBM private network. The sub-allocated addresses below are the public IP addresses that were assigned to the VDC. Next, we'll create a source NAT rule, which is necessary to allow traffic from our private web network to get outbound to the internet. While we're still in the Edge Gateway Services pane, we'll click on the NAT tab. And then under the NAT44 rules, we'll add a new SNAT rule. We'll select the external network. And then we'll add our original or source IP range. This is the IP range for the web network that we just previously created. When creating SNAT rules, you can use a one-to-many or a many-to-one NAT. The translated source IP range is one of the IP addresses from the sub-allocated IP address range. This is one of the 5 public IP addresses that we were assigned. Optionally, we can enter a description to help us remember what this rule is for, and then we can save it. Next, we'll enable access to the IBM Cloud private network. Virtual data centers route to the IBM Cloud private network through a virtual data center service network that is configured as an available external network on the virtual data center's edge. Enabling access to the service network is done through the same steps that we use to enable access to the public internet. First, we create our firewall rules, then we create our NAT rules. The big difference here is that we'll be targeting the services network versus targeting the external network. I'm running through those steps right now. vApps and virtual machines running inside of the virtual data center can be configured to use the IBM Cloud Private Network to access IBM Cloud services. Accessing IBM Cloud services through a private network can save on outbound public networking costs and can provide a higher degree of reliability and security. By way of the private network, you can access the following services: NTP, Red Hat and CentOS Yum repositories, Microsoft Windows Update Server, Microsoft Key Management Server, and then also Cloud Object Storage. Okay, let's go ahead and close this tab out and move over to the virtual machine section. I don't have any virtual machines defined yet. Let's create my first one right now. We'll give the VM a name. Let's create a CentOS 7 VM. The VM creation is in flight. Our VM is quickly ready. Let's look at the details page and dive in a little bit deeper. Let's look at the hardware configuration. We still need to connect our VM to the network that was created in the previous steps. Let's go ahead and do that now. There's the network. We use static IPs in that network, so we'll set that here as well. We'll go ahead and set that to be connected. We need a way to gain the initial root password to access the VM. That's done through guest OS customizations. So we'll enable guest customization. We'll allow a local administrator password, and then we'll auto-generate a password. I'll save those changes. I'll go ahead and reboot this VM to pick up those changes. And then now, powered it back on, enforcing recustomization. The power on and recustomization process is complete. Let's go find that initial root password. I'll capture this from my first login. I can access the VM via the web console or the VMware remote console as well. It worked. I'm in. Note it's always the best practice to change that initial password. Let's check the network connectivity and verify that we do have outbound access to the public internet, and we also have outbound access to the IBM Cloud private network. I'll verify the network access by pinging the DNS servers that I previously set up for the VM. Alright, that worked. Excellent. I'll try my secondary DNS server as well. Super. Next, let me try to ping one of the IBM Cloud services that I can access on the private network and verify the private network outbound access as well. Looking at the IBM Cloud public documentation for the VMware Shared service, I see that I can access the Cloud Object Storage service through this address right here. Let's go ahead and try that. Super. I can access Cloud Object Storage over the private network. Look, we're back on the VMware Solutions resource page, and this wraps up our demo of IBM Cloud VMware Shared Networks and VMs.